Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show. Grant Shapps, the Defence Secretary, joins me now. He's also the Tory MP for Welwyn Hatfield. Mr Shapps, lovely to see you this morning. Thank you for sparing the time. The chair of NATO's military committee, Dutch Admiral Rob Bauer, has given a strong indication that NATO could be at war with Russia within 20 years. Do you agree with that assessment?
I mean, the truth of the matter is, as I said in my speech on Monday at Lancaster House here in London, and the comments from NATO are really reflecting or echoing that, is no one really knows, which is why we need to be prepared for whatever comes. I don't think it's inevitable. I think it depends, in no small part, on what happens with Putin in Ukraine, where he simply cannot be allowed to win that war, where he walked in on a democratic neighbour and invaded, and our response is part of making sure that he doesn't feel that he's emboldened enough to go to war.
Are we well prepared enough, though? I note General Lord Dannatt, who of course was the former chief of the General Staff, he said, quote, "The woeful state of our armed forces in the mid-1930s failed to deter Hitler or prevent the Second World War and the Holocaust. There is a serious danger of history repeating itself. The government or the next one should commit now to spending 3% of GDP on defence." He's not wrong, is he? At the moment, I believe you're at 2.1%. You need to get to 2.5. But surely, in light of the threat not just from Russia, but also China and what's going on in the Red Sea right now, defence spending should be at 3%, shouldn't it, Minister?
Well, our defence spending is the largest it's ever been at over £50 billion, and it's about 2.25 probably right now. We agree it needs to go higher. In fact, the government's committed, as conditions allow, to go to 2.5%, and we think that is absolutely right to go in that. In fact, my entire speech on Monday was about this subject, about how we prepare for what is undoubtedly a more dangerous world. So you're seeing everybody commenting in different ways about the state of the world, NATO, Richard Dannatt there, as you just mentioned, and myself on Monday. We're all concerned that we need to have that plan in place, and we have a plan, and we're investing £288 billion over the next decade to make sure that we do pump more money into our military, into our equipment, and that we can safely defend ourselves. And Britain's leading the way, as I said, in Ukraine, but actually also this week I announced an operation in Europe called Steadfast Defender, which is a NATO operation, which the United Kingdom's providing 40% of the ground troops and 50% of the overall personnel, even though there were 32 countries in total involved in this. So we really are leading from the front in the UK.
Although we do understand that we don't have enough sailors to staff support vessels for frigates, also the number of regular soldiers...
That's not true, that story.
OK, so tell us what is the truth of the story, because it has been widely reported that we don't have enough sailors. Meanwhile, Mr Shapps, we see that regular soldier numbers have fallen by 40% since 2010.
So first of all, I saw the story saying that we couldn't send the carrier strike group out. The story is completely untrue. In fact, we are sending the carrier strike group out as part of that Steadfast Defender operation I mentioned a moment ago. And when it comes to numbers, it is true that the plan is to have 73,000 troops full-time. Army troops, but the overall military is much bigger than that. It's very close to 189,000 right now. And just looking at numbers is not that reliable in terms of how ready we are to fight. And you've seen whether that's providing the support in Ukraine or just in the last week or so, the support in terms of attacking or preventing the attacks from the Houthis on shipping, and in particular on HMS Diamond, which I was on Thursday. When we need to do things, we are capable and able to do it. It is true that there are strong recruitment issues. I'm pleased to report, actually, I was just talking to the head of the Army, who tells me that applications are at a high for the last 6 years. So we will make sure that we keep people coming into the Army. If you're watching this and you're interested, please apply.
Your colleague Robert Jenrick has called for both the Houthis and indeed the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps both to be proscribed as terrorist groups. What's your reaction to that?
Well, we always keep prescription under very, very close review. There are always pros and cons with doing this. You lose diplomatic relations and that type of thing. When it comes to the Houthis in particular, and as I say, I've just been down to the Red Sea. They don't have very much connectivity to this country in the same way, but we'll look at that very carefully. We are already ensuring that we have quite a number of their individual leaders who are already sanctioned in this country. But I know the Home Secretary will be looking at all of that very carefully indeed.
I mean, isn't Iran at the root of a lot of these problems? What's the UK doing about Iran in general?
Yes, if you look at that situation throughout the region, throughout the Middle East, you've got the Iranian-backed Houthis, you've got Lebanese Hezbollah, you've got Hamas themselves, trained by Iran, you've got militant groups in Iraq and in Syria. They are firmly behind a lot of these problems. And we are increasing our pressure on them. In fact, because there are diplomatic relations, for example, the Foreign Secretary has been speaking to his Iranian opposite number and saying, you have to put a lid on this. We understand.
Well, is he listening?
They tell us that they don't want to see this conflict. Clearly not when it comes to the Houthis, for example, and it's a very, very dangerous game for them to be playing. And we are calling on them and others like China who have an interest, for example, particularly in the trade that comes through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, to make that message particularly clear to the Iranians that no good can come of this, and they need to calm and cool the situation in the region.
If unelected peers try and block the Rwanda bill through the House of Lords, do you think the government should consider reforming the House of Lords?
Well, look, the people I'm most concerned about who will block it in there are Keir Starmer's Labour Party. We don't have a majority in the House of Lords because Labour can block us in coalition with the Lib Dems. So the person who can unblock this in the Lords, rather than saying peers are blocking it, it's Labour who'll be blocking it. They're blocking it, but they can't say what they would do about these small boats. They don't even have a plan. We have a plan. We're carrying it out. We've seen the number of small boats crossings being slashed by 36% this year, which has been exceptional. We'd like to go further. We think the Rwanda plan is part of that. Keir Starmer has no plan. He'll take us right back to square one. He even said last week on television that even if the Rwanda plan is working in stopping the small boats, he would still overturn it if we were to get elected. He has no plan. He'd take us back to square one.
Although square this circle for us, please, Mr. Shapps. On one hand, you've introduced a Rwanda bill to act as a deterrent to people coming here by illegal boat crossing, claiming asylum. You say they're economic migrants. We now understand, according to a front-page story on The Telegraph yesterday, that 16,000 asylum seekers who came here illegally have been allowed to work. What message does that send out to people who are paying people smugglers thousands to come here? On one hand, it's meant to be a deterrent, this bill. On the other, people are coming here illegally and you're handing them work.
Well, look, I don't know the specifics of that individual situation.
Well, those are the specifics. I've just stated them.
Sure. What I was going to say is, what I do know for sure is that we have taken measure after measure, including multiple bills through Parliament, in order to try to crack down on this problem. Not without success, as I say, a slash of well over a third in terms of the numbers travelling here by small boats in 2023. So it's been working. Every single thing that we have done has been absolutely opposed by the lawyer Keir Starmer, who has spent his entire career defending what he calls the human rights of people who are being people trafficked illegally, dangerously, by gangs of people smugglers.
16,000 of them have been handed jobs. So we spoke earlier, I spoke to Patrick O'Flynn, my paper reviewer, about the response to that by a Telegraph reader to this story. A man called Matthew McKay, he said he was 58 years old. He's from a white working class family. He's got 3 children. His wife's a care worker. He said, can anybody tell me why I bother? What is the point of working when so many, now including illegal immigrants, seem to be respected more and certainly looked after better? What is the point in getting up every morning and trying to look after my country when my country has turned its back on hard-working people like me? He's right, isn't he, Minister?
No, I don't think that is a fair reflection at all. We have record low unemployment in this country, record high levels of employment. There are jobs. In fact, we were just talking about the lack of the problems of recruiting a few moments ago. There are jobs for people in this country. We also have developed, as I say, in terms of that illegal migration, those small boats, a whole series of different bills, acts of law,
but why
in
is
order
the government
to prevent this illegal
allowing
crossing.
illegal migrants to work? Is it because, as we all suspect, the Home Office is a basket case and can't keep track of half these people?
Well, look, as I say, I don't know the specific answers to that particular cohort that you've referenced.
Well, should they be working, these illegal migrants?
But what I do know is that we have consistently tightened up the rules to make sure that people can't come here and then claim asylum if they are, in fact, economic migrants. And that is a very, very key point, all of which will be overturned by Keir Starmer and the Labour Party because they have forced us tooth and nail. They can't say what they would do. They don't have a plan to sort it out.
I know,
they
but
take
you
us back
can't
to
answer
square
my
one.
question.
But they're very happy to tell their... Well, I'm afraid...
I'm going to try for a final time. I'm going to try a final...
You can, but...
Just a final time, Mr Shapps. Should people coming here illegally by boat be allowed to work? Yes or no?
I think the answer... I think in general the answer is clearly no, because if they're illegal migrants, I don't know the specifics of the case, which I've been very, very clear about. But I do think in the principle, what lies behind this
Mr Shapps, we need to leave it there.
Be very clear about not allowing people to come here illegally, and that's been fought against by Keir Starmer.
Thank you so much for your time this morning, Defence Secretary.